Hello, this is your Daily Scoop with Annie Sprinkles. And since yesterday, today is March 1st, 2016. Happy March. Yesterday, as you know, for those who tuned in, my video cut off at the end and I did not get to reading some of the myths and facts that I promised. So I'm going to start the Daily Scoop today. Well, first of all, with our flavor is strawberry. And I'm picking strawberry because right now I'm also looking, even though you're looking at the Daily Scoop sign, I'm also looking at the Harmony quilt. And it just reminds me for some reason of strawberry fields. And I'm going to read a couple stories from the quilt today. And I think in the very first Daily Scoop, back on February 11th, I think was the first one, I talked about the Harmony quilt and how the stories that are represented in this quilt are both of people who have lost their lives as well as survivors' stories. So I'm going to read a couple of those today as well. So, just kind of as a reminder, the Harmony quilt, which was presented along with the Harmony song at this event 10 years ago that Jim and I did, we made a special dedication and explained that the Harmony quilt is dedicated to the innocent victims of domestic violence, to those who still suffer abuse and live in fear, and to those within our community who work tirelessly to promote peace and healing. So this was a true labor of love. And it was handmade. I got to give, of course, credit to Jackie Lynn of Jackie Lynn's Fabric and Sewing Center, who donated the fabric and the time and the design, and it's just wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read some of the facts, and then I'm going to read a couple of the stories from the quilt, mine included. So the first, nearly 1 in 4 women in the United States reports experiencing violence by a current or former spouse or boyfriend at some point in her life. On average, more than 3 women a day are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends in the United States. This also goes for former partners. Here's a myth about domestic violence. And again, these are set up myth, then the truth. She must have done something to provoke it. Truth. Victims do nothing to provoke abuse. It is the choice of the abuser to abuse, period. Another myth, she could do something to prevent it. Truth. This implies that the victim has some control over the situation when in fact it is the abuser who has the control. And that is exactly what they want, to exert power and control over another person. And then the last fact, and I believe I shared these on one of my daily posts, most cases of domestic violence are never reported. So I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of the stories in the quilt. Some of them you may remember or recall. The one story I'm going to read is the story of Louise and Terry Ryder. And the reason I'm reading these stories first is because this is the domestic violence homicide in our community that happened on June 6th of 2004 that moved me to action beyond giving anonymous donations to our local shelter for saving my life 10 years prior. So, I was at work one day and an all-company email came out that someone in our operator center had been murdered by her husband as well as her daughter, who was 12. And for some days to follow, a lot of stories came out. And I experienced what they call post-traumatic stress disorder. It was 10 years after I had, 9+ years after I had already been safe, had fled my home. I was already remarried in a very obviously loving and blissful and safe relationship. But I experienced what they call post-traumatic stress disorder, and this particular event in our community caused me to trigger a lot of nightmares and a lot of flashbacks. So I moved to action by, first of all, healing, and I have a lot of protective factors in my life. I have a lot of resilience factors in my life. So that particular event didn't cripple me or last a long time, because I was able to talk through that. Number one, with the love of my life, and number two, with some other people. And it also, what I did was, at that point, is I called the shelter. And I asked to talk with the executive director, and I said, I worked with someone who was recently killed by domestic violence, and I would like to do more. Right now, I'm a donor, and I would like to volunteer in another capacity. Would you like to maybe get together and have coffee? And she said, absolutely. So we met, and we talked, and she was really a great help to me, working through some stuff. And then she invited me to be part of their 25th anniversary luncheon that was coming up that fall. And would I like to be on the committee? And not only that, would I be willing and safe to share my story of what happened to me almost 10 years prior to when she and I were having this conversation. And I said, let me think about that, but I think I might be interested in doing that, and that might help me. And so I did, and I reached out to a good friend of mine who I met at that time, who had also done some good work along the way. She had written a book, she had written a song, so I got her involved, and I said, well, would you do this event with me? They kind of want us to tell our stories and and it was so then I had a friend that was also willing to share her story at this event. So so there is kind of a long story about how I was moved to action. Now, again, like I said, this was in 2004, now it's 2016, so I've been doing this work much longer and have been sharing my story for, over 12 years in many different forums and symposiums and college campuses and different audiences in different parts of New York and actually other states. So I am going to go ahead and read the story in the quilt of Louise and Terry Ryder. I am 42 years old. I am a mother raising 4 children. I am dedicated to my children. I love being with them, and I need to make sure they are always okay. I like writing poetry and decorating. I work as a telephone operator, and on this night, I needed my husband to drive me to work. He called me Lucifer and stabbed me twice in front of my 4 children. They were running away when he called them back to the house. My younger daughter, Terry, was stabbed on this night as well. I died with my daughter tonight, and my son was seriously injured. My name was Louise Ryder, June 6, 2004. The next story is her daughter. I am 12 years old. They call me Terry for short. I am in the 7th grade now. My brothers and sister and our friends like to hang out in my backyard. I have my whole life ahead of me. On this night, my father stabbed my mother. When my siblings and I started to run away, he called us back to the house. Then my father stabbed me in the chest. My brother was seriously hurt. I died with my mother on this night. My name was Teresa Terry Ryder, June 6, 2004. I'm going to read one other dedication, and this was written by a woman's son, Shonda Kyler, and she passed on August 11, 2005. A dedication tribute to my beloved mother, Shonda A. Kyler. from her son, Aaron C. Kyler, to honor her in the words of my teacher's eyes. Shunda A. Kyler was a loving mother who spent time and interest in her son's life. She showed all the love a mother can give a child. Love isn't love till you give it from your heart. And now faith, hope, and love remains. But the greatest of these is love. Corinthians 13:13. Shunda Kyler, August 11, 2005. Now I'm going to read 2 survivor stories that are stitched alongside these stories. And the first one is written by a survivor in 1996. From nothingness to the me that's always been in there. From hopelessness to endless possibilities. Finally, using the strength from within to take care of myself. Thank you. Thank you for listening without blame, judgment, or any spirit-killing ways that helped me disappear in the first place. Life is good. I can choose. And I'm going to read one more survivor story. And then we will close the Daily Scoop for today and just let you think about these stories and resonate on them a little bit. Okay, so this next story. I don't walk on eggshells anymore. I don't have to predict your mood today. I don't have to sneak upstairs and take the phone off the hook because I don't live with you. I don't hear screaming and shouting, harsh words or name-calling right in my face. I'm not backed up against a wall or curled up in the corner. I don't see you biting your lower lip or clenching your fists, because I don't live with you. I don't hear doors slamming or things breaking. I don't see you punching walls. I'm not holding your bloody, trembling hands under cold water. I used to believe you hurt yourself more than me, but not now. I don't curl up in bed and pretend I'm asleep. I wake up in peace. I'm not jerked from a sound sleep. I don't have a gun in my face or threats made. I don't see your rage or that glaze over your eyes. I don't feel you scaring me anymore, because I don't live with you. I don't feel your hands on my throat. I'm not shaking from head to toe. I don't run and hide now. I don't plead for my life. I'm not your wife. I don't hear you say you're sorry anymore, because I don't live with you. And that was written by a survivor in 1995. Yours truly. Okay, so a little sharing there. A couple stories, a couple myths and facts, and we are going to close the Daily Scoop, and I will also attach the Harmony song video to this Facebook post. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.